All right, moving on to our next question. It says a circle is inscribed inside of a cube. So remember, the circle then is inscribed inside of a cube. If the cube has a volume of 343 meters cubed, what is the volume of the sphere? Leave your answer as a simplified fraction in terms of pi. Well, how is this information going to help me, volume of the cube, going to help me find the volume of the sphere? And so I have to take into account what information do we need for volume of a sphere. So volume of a sphere, remember, is 4/3 pi r cubed. So I need the radius. So I need to figure out from the center of my cube to the wall what the radius is. And so how is that going to help me find, or how is the cube going to help me find that? Well, if you think about from one side of the sphere to the other is our diameter, but it's also the length of the side of the cube. So for the volume of the cube, it is, let's give our side lengths, our x's. The volume of the cube is x cubed, so we set that equal to 343 and take the cube root. And the cube root, let's see, is going to give us, so if we take the cube root, a side length is 7. So the diameter is 7, so our radius has to be 3.5. So now we take a look at finding the volume for that. So the volume of our sphere, we are going to take 4/3 pi, our radius 3.5 cubed. 3.5 is going to be 4/3 pi, 42.875 times 4 divided by 3 gives us a lovely fraction that I do not want. 142. How did we do this? So then we get 343 pi over 6. If you hit math, enter, before you multiply pi in, that'll give you your really nice. If you weren't doing it yet, you would get 171.5 over 3. But you don't want that decimal on the top. And so we're going to make it, if you multiply the top and bottom by 2, you get 343 over 6 pi meters cubed. Or just hit math, enter. It'll make it a pretty fraction for you. Okay, so that one's a little different. Let me look at our 2 composite examples here real fast, and then we'll be done. All right, so for our next example, it says find the composite volume, round to the nearest tenth. It has a prism, a square prism, the bottom is square. This is also 10. And it's taking out a hemisphere. So we're going to take the volume of the prism, and we are going to subtract out the volume of a hemisphere. That was really bad handwriting. So for our prism, we're going to take the base, which is going to be 10 times 10 times the height, which is 13, and that will give me 1,300 centimeters cubed. And the volume of the hemisphere is 2/3. Our radius is 5. 5 cubed. And right now I'm going to leave that as a fraction. It gives me 250 pi over 3. And then we're going to subtract these. So 1300 minus, and in the calculator I'm going to make sure I use parentheses here so it turns out nice. Let's see, clear, minus parentheses 50 pi divided by 3. And we get 1038.2 after rounding to the nearest tenth centimeters cubed. Okay. And then one more composite. We've got a hemisphere and a cylinder. So they're just stacked on top of each other. Nothing's getting taken away. So we're going to add these. So I'm going to take the volume of the cylinder and add the volume of the hemi. So for my cylinder, it has a height of 5 and a radius of 4. So pi radius squared times the height. 4 squared is 16. 16 times 5 is 80 pi inches cubed. And then I take the volume of my hemisphere, which is 2/3 pi 4 cubed. 4 cubed is 64 times 2 and then divided by 3. We'll just leave this as a nice pretty fraction, 128 pi over 3 inches cubed. And so for my final answer, this says in terms of pi, these both have pi in them, so please be very careful. So we're saying 80 pi minus 128 pi over 3. In order to make sure you subtract these well, you either want to not include the pi's at all and do 80 minus parentheses 128 over 3 and then plug the pi back in, or you can turn that 80 into something with a similar or the same denominator. If you do that, you're going to end up with 240 pi over 3 minus 128 pi over 3. So then you can subtract 124 minus 128, and you get 112 pi over 3 inches cubed. Okay? So if you do it in the calculator, that's fine. Just don't include the pi's, and then hit math, enter, enter to get your simplified fraction, and then put your pi back in. Either way is fine. All right. Thanks for listening in, guys. See you later.